Hi, I'm Aaron, a male in my mid-20s. So, I'm just gonna try putting it all down here. For as long as I've known, my friends have been friends with me because, according to them, I'm the trust fund baby. They always tried getting close to me because they thought that I'd be throwing lavish parties all around the world and sponsoring booze at parties. And they always left me when I turned out to be nothing like that. It's true, my parents have a huge trust fund for me, but I know how hard they worked for it. I know that the wealth wasn't built in a day, and one mistake could absolutely ruin my father's company. So I work hard every freaking day. I work hard to expand what my father started, but recently, I was very close to making that one mistake. Ashley, the love of my life, my wife, a 28-year-old female, throughout college I didn't date anybody. I'm not the type who dates or hooks up with women casually. I always wanted to date to marry, but when the news about my parents' wealth spread, I attracted all the wrong kinds of company. You see, when you have money, you become popular and people want to live off of you. I did lend money to some of my friends and sponsored the occasional booze, but nothing extravagant, nothing that people expect from a trust fund baby. I believe that doing something in moderation isn't bad and, in fact, is important because you need to be a part of society too. So, I tried being in everyone's good books but rarely trusted anybody. During my graduation party, I met Ashley. She didn't seem to know me, and I started casually talking to her. We really hit it off instantly. We exchanged phone numbers, and on our first date, I took her to McDonald's and we had the time of our life. She didn't seem to mind that the first date wasn't anything fancy, and I fell in love. Ashley was the first love of my life. She wasn't boring and didn't seem to be trying hard to impress me. She was just being herself. Also, she was really smart. With her I felt normal and seemed to get an image beyond my money. After 1 month of dating, when I took her to meet my parents, she didn't act surprised at all and seemed to accept that I was rich with nothing but neutrality. I took that as a positive sign that my wealth didn't faze her at all. At that time, it didn't occur to me that she probably wasn't surprised because that was part of her plan from day one. She absolutely knew who I was and knew how I wasn't dating anybody. So winning me over was all a carefully crafted strategy. She was full of elegance during her meeting with my parents, and she was charming. I was head over heels in love. She was the first girl I ever brought home, and my parents were very excited for me. We dated for a year, and during that time she never accepted any costly gifts from me. Her reason for refusing was simply that we weren't married yet. I proposed to her after a year. She was an absolute sweetheart to my parents, telling them that she only had one request, that they never asked her to leave her work because she wanted to work to expand our fortune. My mother hugged her and said that they were glad I had found such a supportive wife. Ashley worked in an IT company and made a decent amount of money herself. On our second anniversary, my parents hosted a party. There, they announced that they wanted to give a gift to Ashley and proposed including her name as a beneficiary along with me. They went around introducing Ashley to everybody, including Bob, the trustee. He was an accountant on behalf of the company that looked after the legalities of the funds and investments. He was married and had a daughter. His wife was a lawyer in the same firm. Everything was taken care of, and my wife's name was included as one of the beneficiaries. Ashley bonded really well with my parents and was always doing her best to keep them happy. She also worked and traveled a lot for her job. Later on, I'd come to know that she was traveling with her affair partner. Whenever my parents threw a party, she was always eager to attend and looked stunning on countless occasions. At such parties, I've seen her talking to Rob in a corner, laughing a little too much, blushing with wine in her hand. And as stupid and blind in love as I was, it never once occurred to me that I should suspect her of having an affair with Rob. But all this time, those two were having an affair behind my back. Looking back at it, I'm surprised at Ashley. She's an absolute pro actor. She treated each of us so well that the mere thought of ever suspecting her seemed blasphemous. But she was just biding her time. Almost 7 years into our marriage, my parents passed away within 6 months of each other. I absolutely immersed myself in my work because it was just too difficult to deal with all the emotions when you also have to keep the company running. And that was the first time in years when Ashley started showing her true colors. After the funeral, she was distant. I thought maybe she was dealing with grief in her own way and tried giving her space. She didn't say one word to me about my parents passing away or ask how I was. I thought it was strange, but secretly blamed myself for being unable to talk about how I felt either. About 2 weeks passed before I decided to get home early from work and talk it out with Ashley. I bought a bunch of pink roses on my way back. I had my own key, so I let myself in and came face to face with Rob. I was confused, so I asked him if he came to talk to me about the trust or something. Ashley came out from behind with 2 suitcases. It was then I noticed that even Rob had 2 suitcases. Ashley looked at me and said, "Oh dang. I meant to do this quietly. I was meaning to leave a note and let you know that I'm moving out. But I guess we have to do it face to face now. Yeah, so I'm leaving you. Yep, you heard that right, and yeah, I'm moving in with Rob. After we returned from our vacation in Italy, your parents made sure that I'd get enough money to afford it. Also, we're divorcing. Rob is also going to file for divorce now. Now don't look like a forlorn puppy. Are those flowers for me? I'll take them, thanks. Ciao," she said, and they were out of the door even before I could ask her to wait. I heard the engine revving up and then silence, and just like that, my wife of 7 years left me. Have you ever heard the expression about the world crashing down in front of you? Well, that best describes what I felt for 2 days. I didn't leave the house. I didn't open the blinds. I was surviving on refrigerated food and then cup noodles. I never turned the TV off because I was scared of the silence. I didn't even feel like bathing on the 3rd day. Someone rang the doorbell, and I thought if I didn't open the door, they'd probably go away eventually. But that didn't happen. The bell kept on ringing, and whoever it was pressing the bell harder and longer with each go. 10 minutes went by, and still the ringing didn't stop. Now there was someone banging on the door. I heard a woman's voice say, "I know you're in there. Open up right now. I'm not leaving till I talk to you." For a minute, I thought it was Ashley, but then I remembered that she was vacationing in Italy with Rob. This thought brought a fresh wave of sadness over me, but the knocking and banging wasn't stopping. So, I dragged myself out of bed and started unlocking the door. I opened the door to find a red-haired woman in a 2-piece suit. She looked like she would bite my head off. She said, "Your wife ran away with my husband. Sitting here and being a was won't help anybody. So get up, go take a bath, and get yourself in the living room in 15 minutes. We have to talk about a lot of things." When I didn't respond, she let herself in and looked me straight in the eye and said, "What? You stink," before heading to the bathroom. I said, "Okay, Mom," and she screamed back, "I heard that." Despite myself, I laughed. I started feeling a little human after my bath, and when I returned to the living room, it was spotless, and so was the kitchen. Sandra, Rob's wife, introduced herself. She told me that she had been trying to reach me at my office for the last 2 days but couldn't get through. So she finally decided to show up at my doorstep. She meant business. I couldn't believe what she was telling me. Sandra said that, like me, she didn't suspect that Rob was cheating on her, and she only found out when he left the house 2 days back and said that he would send his assistant to collect the rest of his things. Like me, her world was shattered. But she didn't wallow in self-pity. She started digging up dirt. The first thing she did was go through Rob's laptop. He stored his work stuff there, but he had his Facebook logged in. She wasted no time going through his chats and finding out with whom he was having an affair. And once she was sure, she swooped like a hawk. She had gone through every document related to my trust fund and was pretty sure that Rob was taking out money for his own needs. It started small so that it went unnoticed, but eventually, he had become bold and careless because he was being aided by one of the beneficiaries, who was none other than Ashley. Part of me wished that she was lying, but she wasn't. Sandra had all the proof and was ready to take them down. I was still hesitating when Sandra said, "I have a little daughter. I will wring out every single penny from Rob, and I will absolutely wreck Ashley. I don't care what you think. I just wanted to inform you. You don't have to be a part of it if you don't want to." I saw how determined and confident she was, and I instantly knew I could trust this woman. So I was on board. We shook hands as my ex-wife was vacationing in Italy. We were hatching a plan that was going to cost her dearly. Ashley and Rob were back from their 10-day trip to Italy. Sandra and I were waiting for their call because we wanted to see what their reactions would be when the penny dropped. It was a Monday when I was at work when I received a call from Ashley. Soon as I picked up, she launched into a rant. What the hell is happening? What does Rob mean that we're in trouble? And where's my money? I said, you mean my parents' money that Rob was using to buy you gifts and probably that apartment you've moved into? I hope you heard from my lawyer. It's Sandra, Rob's wife, who by the way also works for the firm. I told her I had to go and hung up before she could say a single word. When I got out of work that day, Ashley was waiting outside. I pretended not to notice her and walked towards my car, but she blocked my way. In my whole life of knowing her, I had never seen her so ruffled by anything. She asked me to explain things to her because, apparently, Rob's anxious retell of the events wasn't making sense. She wanted to hear it from me in layman's terms. I told her that I had heard from her lawyer about the divorce filing. The only thing being that she wasn't going to get a single penny. Oh boy! The look on her face. Never in her wildest dreams did she think this could be happening. I could see the panic grow inside her. I was filled with sadistic pleasure, and in the next moment, an overwhelming sense of guilt for putting her in this situation. I still loved her, and it's difficult to watch the person you love getting hurt. I had to get out of there quickly so that she couldn't manipulate me. I walked past her and started moving towards my car. I heard her screaming from behind. She was asking me to stop. The last thing I heard before I got in the car was, "How could you do this to me?" It felt like a stab, and I wanted to lash out so badly and say that I could ask her the same damn question. But instead, I got in my car and drove off. I could see her looking after the car, absolutely bewildered, in my rearview mirror. Meanwhile, Rob had been served with a notice that he was going to be terminated from the company. He was spoiling the reputation of the company, and apparently, the news had leaked, and a lot of clients had called asking to terminate their contracts. So, the best the company could do as damage control was to fire him. Sandra had a lot of lawyer friends and arranged for the best lawyer. She was sure of winning the case and getting custody. I was getting all these updates from Sandra while driving back home, and I felt much lighter. I came back home and wrote this up. My interaction with Ashley left me feeling very restless, and I wanted to vent. Do you guys think I'm going too hard on Ashley? In reality, AITA Update 1. Hi everybody. I'm back with another update. It's been a week. Thanks for your support. Thanks for pulling me up when I was feeling so confused. I had my first therapy session, and I showed him this post. He said it's a good way to cope. He said it's natural to grieve the person you lost, in this case, Ashley, so it's only natural that I was feeling so overwhelmed after I dropped the bomb. As for what happened this week, I'm going to try to summarize it for you all. Ashley called me again, and this time her tone had softened. Her voice sounded muffled, like she had been crying. She asked me if I had dinner, and when I said, no, she said, "Do you want me to come over and cook it for you?" I was taken back. I think she took my silence as a yes because next she said that she would be at my house in half an hour. I finally found my voice and said, No, you won't. Are you kidding? After what you've done, you want to come here, cook me dinner, and play house? She said, Baby, no. I know things have been bad, but we can talk. I was losing it then. I think I shouted at this point. You call what you did bad? Just bad? It was evil, it was brutal and selfish. To hell with you. I don't ever want to see your face again. What the freak is wrong with you? The next thing she said made me want to throw up. She asked me to stop overreacting. I think that was a turning point for me. The guilt over hurting her had been eating away inside me. But at this point, I saw her real face. A woman who didn't regret her actions one bit, and would do it all over again in a heartbeat. The call was a move to try to manipulate me, a trap. She was oblivious to my realization, going on about how I was making her out to be a gold digger in the lawsuit, but how untrue that was because she was earning and had a job herself. I wanted to point out how I had paid all of her student debt, so if she was living comfortably now, it was because of me and my family. She said that the only reason she wanted to come over was that she thought we should talk and get back together, and I should withdraw my lawsuit because it was pointless. I couldn't help myself from asking, what about Rob? She said that Rob was just someone different, and she was having an affair with him because he brought a change to her monotonous life. Then she started blaming me for being away for work and for never being there for her. She said her affair with Rob was passionate, and I lacked it very much. Instead of apologizing to her, I was giving her a lawsuit. At this point, I was convinced that she was trying to give me an ear bleed. I told her that if she had been having so many problems, she could have talked to me about it, or we could have gone to marriage counseling. Cheating was never the solution. She diverted the topic and started insisting on coming back. I cut the call and called Sandra. I told her what happened. Sandra asked me to ring her back and ask her to come over. She said she was going to come over too and asked me to play along to see what her real motive was. So, I cut my call with Sandra and called up Ashley. She sounded so smug when she picked up. She said that she knew I would come around and that she'd be there in half an hour. Before Ashley came, Sandra arrived. I didn't know what her plan was, and there wasn't enough time for her to explain. She went inside and asked me to make Ashley sit in the dining room. Sandra said that she would make a special appearance in this drama. Ashley turned up about 40 minutes later, and it was obvious that she had made an effort to look good. She did look good. She got inside, kissed me, and was heading towards the bedroom where Sandra was. So, I stopped her and asked her to sit in the dining room. She turned to me and pouted. "But why, sweetheart? Did I lose my right so easily? Was your love so weak? Will you not fight for us, baby?" At this point, Sandra came out of the bedroom. Ashley looked too stunned to speak and croaked out something like, "What the hell?" Sandra smiled at Ashley and said, "Ah, finally. We meet the woman who is dating my useless husband, Rob, the cheater. Oh, and yes, you did lose your right to the bedroom." Ashley swung around at me. "How could you replace me so easily? You're sleeping with Rob's wife after taking away all my happiness. We had so many debts, and now we won't even get the damn trust fund money. And God knows who leaked the news, but now Rob is jobless. I might get fired too. You're just so selfish." Sandra piped in and said, "What do you mean we have debt? Is it like a joint loan thing? Were you helping Rob misplace and withdraw the funds? Or what?" Ashley swung at her. "Hell yeah, I supported Rob from day one. Do you think he could have planned something like that on his own? Obviously, I helped him. Unlike you, you evil witch, you've been nothing but condescending to him. That's why he chose me over you. Get out of here. How can you be here when your husband is jobless? Why the hell don't you give a statement in his favor and help him out?" Sandra smiled sweetly and then told me that she thought I ought to send Ashley home. The job was done. I got the cue and held the door open for Ashley. Ashley stormed out while hurling a volley of abuse at us. When she left, I turned towards Sandra and asked, "What just happened?" Sandra pressed stop on a tape and then winked at me. Her eyes were shining. She said excitedly, "We got a confession, Aaron. We'll ruin them. I told you I'm not letting both of them escape. That, my friends, is Sandra for you. She's clever and ruthless. If I were Ashley and Rob, I'd be terrified of her. She's just too good at what she does." Before heading out, Sandra confessed that, obviously, it was her who had leaked the news about Rob. I told her that her intelligence was rubbing off on me, and I had figured at least this much out, that she had something to do with it. Guys, I'll keep you updated. The game is finally beginning. Update 2. Well, I'm back with an update too soon, I guess, but I couldn't wait to tell you guys. Sandra is an absolute ruthless kid. She sent the tape to Ashley's company with a detailed explanation of what was going on. She said in the note that someone who could go to that extent to fool the people who care about her wasn't a credible person to work in the company, and would probably try to embezzle funds from them if she saw an opening. Sandra also knew one of the business partners in Ashley's firm, who happened to be her old friend. Sandra's friend abruptly pulled out of a deal that she was about to sponsor and said that there were certain members on the team whose credibility she doubted. So the deal was off the table. Ashley's boss was absolutely torching himself when the news reached him. They made a swift decision to save the deal by firing the person who was responsible for it. That's it, just like that. My ex-wife is fired from the company. Now both of them are jobless and in debt. Sandra told me that Rob had been calling her non-stop, and when she didn't pick up any calls, he started texting her. She asked him to stop annoying her and blocked his number. "I'm really enjoying this now," she said. I've also been having my sessions, and my therapist tells me that Ashley could be a case study of narcissism. LOL, that was low-key funny. She laughed freely after a really long time. Anyway, I'll keep you guys updated. Oh, did I tell you guys that Rob was taken into custody? Apparently, Ashley had to break into her savings account to pay his bail. Serves them right. Bye for now. Update 3. This morning, Sandra called me up and she was furious. Apparently, early in the morning, Rob had constantly rung her doorbell. He was drunk and kept on abusing her. Her security camera recorded the whole thing. When Sandra asked him to go away, he tried breaking in. He only went away when Sandra threatened to call the police. The worst thing about this whole incident was that due to all the noise and everything, Sandra and Rob's daughter, Emily, woke up. She saw what was happening and is now traumatized. Divorce is usually hard on children, but seeing your father drunk on your doorstep, calling your mom names, and trying to break into the house is on a whole different level. Emily has since refused to leave her room. Sandra asked me if I could go over as she had to go to the police station and file a restraining order. She couldn't find a babysitter at such short notice, and I told her I would. I phoned in at work, asking them to call me if they needed anything. As soon as I reached Sandra's place, she was at the door. She told me that if Emily came out, I should give her some food because she hadn't even had breakfast. As soon as Sandra left, I knocked on Emily's room. When nobody responded, I got a pin and broke the lock. I don't know why, but I was feeling paranoid in that silence. I was thinking of the worst-case scenarios and I just couldn't sit still while the child was suffering. When I burst into her room, there was nobody there and I was hyperventilating. But then, a small movement caught my eye. Emily was hiding under the bed. A little girl of 3 or 4 years who looked just like her mom except for her hair was looking at me with eyes full of terror. She was stuttering in fear and somehow managed to ask me if I was her dad's friend and if Rob had sent me. I knelt down and introduced myself. I told her that instead of her dad, I was actually her mom's friend. She seemed to relax a bit at that, and then she started anxiously looking out the window and asked if her dad was gone. I said he was because her mom was like a tigress who would protect her cub with everything. She started crying then, as she told me how she was afraid that Rob would break in and hurt her mom. I told her that I would never let that happen. My heart was breaking for this innocent child, who had not only lost a dad but also seen what a horrible man her father was. I talked her into coming out and playing her favorite Disney movie. I heated up some lasagna and fed her. Sandra tells me that when she came back, she found Emily lying on my chest and sleeping peacefully, drooling into her favorite pillow. That night, when I was about to leave, Emily clung to my legs and wouldn't let me go. She kept crying, and then in the end, she said she was scared that Rob would turn up again and there would be no one to protect her mom. I joked that her mom didn't need protecting, but I shut up when Sandra rolled her eyes at me. It would be really difficult to explain the restraining order to a child, so I decided to stay the night. Emily slept peacefully, and so did I. The next morning, Sandra made us amazing pancakes, and I directly left for work. Emily made me promise that I would come to sleep at their house again that night. So yeah, I guess that's my life now. I have to spend my nights at Sandra's house. Sandra has tried to find a good child psychologist, but as of now has had no luck. I'll update you guys after the first hearing. Ciao. Update 4. Okay phew, it's been a long time since I last updated you guys. Right? Well, the first hearing is done. What a layman like me has figured out is this. Ashley and Rob are absolutely cooked, yeah. I mean it, brother. They are cooked like barbecue. We have such alarming evidence against them that it's actually an open and shut case, but you know how courts are, so yeah, it's gonna drag on for a while. Sandra believes that it won't take more than half a year. She also believes that both of them will serve time in jail. As for the divorce, Ashley and Rob obviously won't get a penny. Rob has to pay child support as well. Ashley and Rob were job hunting, but with no luck. I have news that Rob is working as a janitor in the nearby club, outside the court. We saw Rob getting beat up by some loan sharks. Things are looking grim for that man. He's finished. When he saw Sandra outside the court, he ran to her and fell at her feet. He kept begging her to take him back. But by now we know better. Sandra's lawyer tells us that the case is so in Sandra's favor that Rob won't even get visitation rights.